this month's segment is on rest. And, as Chris mentioned earlier, we are on mission to restore workplaces and relationships. And you can see at that very beginning of the word restoration is the word rest. And so we also believe that work doesn't exist without rest. So if you ever read a Bible, it starts out in the very beginning that he worked for 6 days, rested on the seventh. And so it should be a natural part of everything that happens in our work life. The question, one of the other members of our team had talked to me this morning, and she asked, why have we taken rest out of the picture as a society? And so let's go ahead and go through that today. And we want you just to be thinking about, as we're going through this, what are some of the ways that you can be resting? What's one area of your life, because there are several that require rest, what's one area of your life that needs rest, and what is one step you can take toward being more restful? So the interesting thing about what we do, so we tend to, at Accompany Suite, focus really heavily on soft skills or interpersonal skills. And what's really cool about rest is it branches over into our technical skills as well. So just like culture is something that is part of those technical skills like accounting, it could be, customer service, whatever it is, those hard skills, we also have these soft skills about how we communicate, how we solve problems, how we do teamwork. And so culture encompasses all of it, and rest needs to be a part of it as well. Just go ahead and put in the chat, how would you define rest? Clear mind, that's very good. Closing the laptop, for sure. Recharging, taking a break. These are great. These are great. Okay. All right. Ceasing from work and activities that drain to do things that recharge, refresh, renew. These are all wonderful, and they are also correct. What we've found a lot of times is people think of rest and they start to think about sleep, or if we go into that resting place, sometimes it does make us tired, whatever it is that you're doing. And so we always will start out whenever we're talking about rest is we want to make sure that we understand that rest is simple. It's a voluntary activity and you're conscious while you're doing it. So whether you're closing that laptop, you unplug from the day, you're doing whatever, it is a very intentional decision that you're making. And sleep is also an active action, but it's more complicated, right? So no matter how many studies I read about sleep, there's still parts of it that they can't quite explain, and they don't quite know why do we sleep and why do we do all these things. And both rest and sleep are tied to our nervous system, but sleep it's involuntary. Like once we are asleep, there's this state of unconsciousness that we're in, and the body automatically does all this stuff. So they are very different, and rest is not sleep. And so we want to make sure that that's something that we understand. So the one thing that always cracks me up is I always think, have you ever heard I need a vacation from my vacation? Right? And so vacation doesn't equal rest either. So what we want to make sure is that rest becomes a daily, frequent activity in your life. One of the things that Chris and I are both musicians from long time ago. And so what we always go to music, as some people do sports references, we tend to do music references. And so Becca's also a musician. So one of the things that we like to show people is the intentionality. Music's been around for a very, very long time, right? Thousands, probably more than that of years. And so for every note that exists, there is a rest that has the same value as the note. And so these are rests equal moments of silence when we're playing music. And so if you ever heard when like an orchestra is starting to warm up and everybody's just playing all those notes and it sounds completely chaotic, well, it's just people playing a bunch of notes that are not the same note and they don't harmonize, and there's really no right or wrong, and there's no rests in it. And so when we have no rest, it becomes this chaotic thing in music. What is also true is if we don't rest when we play music, we become out of breath. We actually won't have the energy to continue playing. And there's nothing of any good value that comes without having rest inside of the music. And so, what we want to do in the workplace is kind of model this same thing as we model music. We want to make sure that rest is part of the healthy rhythm in our workplace, just as it is in music. Again, it doesn't mean sleep, it's an intentional, active, conscious, involved, and engaging activity. What I want to also bring up here is I just want to show you the different values of different notes. Okay. And so, just according to this time signature here, for every whole note in this time signature, it would be 4 beats. There's a whole note rest. That's also 4 beats. So, that's a longer rest. And that could go on for, the whole. We were laughing the other day. We were talking about it. And Chris said, there's always that guy that has the cymbal and he's actually resting the entire piece and then until the last note where he crashes the cymbal, and that's his job and that's how he contributes, where there's just this huge long duration of resting. Whereas you have other people where if you look on the bottom right of your screen, there's an 8th note rest and they go very minuscule, but that's a very brief, right? It's just a moment, it's just an instant. But either way, whether you need a long rest or a short rest, all the rest is equally valuable as long as it is in a rhythm inside of your life. Rests at work look things like brain breaks, or maybe I have a hard stop on something, right? And so all of those things, it sharpens our judgment and decision making when we make sure we have these breaks inside of our workday. Okay, so things to listen for. What you will hear in the workplace, or people will say things like, I just can't be creative anymore. They may say something like, all of us are just tired. We're exhausted. Everybody's beat. It might sound like I need a glass of wine to decompress at the end of the day. We hear that a lot from different clients that we work with. It might be that they're totally stumped. Like, I should be able to figure it out. This isn't that hard, but I can't. I can't figure it out. I can't come to a conclusion. Or you hear things like, I was scrolling and I'm just scrolling, right? I'm watching the reels. I got sucked in. I'm binge watching TV. When you hear things like this, that means that we're missing some of the rest that's necessary for us to thrive. Things to look for are things like miscommunication. It might be an increased heart rate. It might be unusual behavior or trouble focusing. It could be that there is trouble sleeping. So this is the only one where I actually am correlating it to sleeping. If we're not getting enough rest, it actually does affect our sleep. It could be disassociating, right? I'm going to turn off the emotional switch and I just don't want any part of it. It could be something like indifference, where I don't have any emotion. I'm just kind of existing. Or it could be something like weight gain and loss. And so one of the things I want to show you real briefly is what the lack of rest looked like on my face at one point in time. So this is me in August of 2020. I don't really know a whole lot of what's going on here. There was some weird growth under my eye. I had lost a lot of hair. I'm actually smiling in this picture. This was the last day of I had left my firm to start this business back in 2020. And when I say tired and I say burnt out and I say I did not rest, this is probably years. I would say this is at least 5 years of me not resting. And a lot of things happened in my life, but it's visible. And that's the point I'm trying to make. If you know people and you are in relationship with people, you can actually see what it looks like when all they need is rest. Obviously, I don't look like that anymore. I was going to show you the before and after within 6 months, but I thought this one was enough. And you can see me now 4 years later. I do not look like that anymore because rest has become a lifestyle. And it's something I have to remind myself constantly, and our team. Like, we are always watching each other for things like today. If Becca has a sore throat, she should not be talking. And so when we know that, one of us will pick up the slack. Even though it's not like Becca, it's still getting done. All right. So what needs rest in our life? So this is really important. So there's several areas of our life that need rest. Okay. And so when we think about things like spiritual rest, that might look like something like prayer. It could look like time with a community. It could just look like connecting with somebody. I always have those moments, like if I'm in the parking lot and I see that the cart isn't put away, I take the extra moment to just give thanks that I could walk through and grocery shop, and I'm glad for food, and I'm going to help the staff there that does such a good job of taking care of it, and I'm going to put the cart away for somebody. Then we have things that are like mental and emotional rest, and that is alone time. So for some of us, it is, I need to be alone so that I can recharge and be my best for others. And for other people, it is, I need to be with people so that I can recharge, so that I can be better for others. We just have to know what it is that fuels us and fills us up. It could be something like journaling. I'm a big believer in gratitude. And so we want to make sure it's one of our core values here. And so we want to make sure that every day that we're writing and remembering things that we are so grateful for. And it could be something that's just time in nature to just enjoy the creation that we get to live in all the time. Physical rest could be something like a massage. It could be stretching. It could be walking. It could be avoiding overstimulation of sensory activities. So like the physical act of shutting the laptop, like you talked about earlier, that one physical movement is a moment of rest because you're closing it. It could be that eighth note rest, right? It might just be momentary, but it is, I'm going to unplug for a minute. I'm going to take a breath. I was talking with somebody, Stuart, that you know very well, the last week, and they talked about running provides them rest and it clears their mind. And so it's different for all of us. And so you just have to know what it is that it is for you. We also talk about finances. Okay, so rest is also important in finances. And so this is intentional spending. It's things like giving back, right? You may tithe to something or be very involved in your community and giving back to things in your community. But financial rest is one of those. It tends to be the thing that stresses us out the most. And once in a while, before you pay your bills or before you give a gift, spend a moment in this mindful state. It could be prayer for some. It could just be, whatever it is that they need to do. But take that pause and really, really think about what is my intention behind it. Is my intention to support and really to give and to, help grow something? Or is it, I'm hoping to get something out of this gift? And if that's the case, that's not really rest. That's just seeking to gain something by giving something. And that's not usually a healthy place to be giving from. So you want to make sure that you have that pause before you pay your bills, before you do anything. Financial requires rest as well. Then we have our relationships like marriage, family, friends, our social life. You want to make sure that you are being mindful inside of all those relationships. Some actually need a real rest. So if we have some friends that cause a lot of distraction, or even family, that it's maybe not the healthiest relationship, a rest might look like a very clear boundary that gets put up in that relationship, or it might be just purely sitting together to enrich the relationship in silence. And that's a real thing, and it is good. And then we have career rest. Okay, so these are the things I talked about before in the workplace. That is the hard stop. That is taking your breaks, go to lunch. We often think, especially at work, that whomever works the most hours is the most valuable. Whoever gets got that client that they are doing better than the rest of us. But what actually happens that I've found when we're the guy that works the most hours, we're actually the guy that produces lesser quality, because we don't have time to rest our brain to get creative. And so I just want you to be mindful that career breaks are really important. Eating well, taking a walk, clearing your mind, saying hello to people. Those are all the kinds of things. Start and end your meetings on time. I'm still working on that, but you need to make sure you do that, right? All those things are really important as far as rest is concerned in your career. So we have tons of other resources out there available to you. This upcoming month, we're going to have lots of things on social about rest. So please just make sure you're watching our LinkedIn, our Facebook, Instagram. Certainly, if you're stuck on anything when it comes to resting, you want to make sure that you can talk with Chris or Becca specifically about this topic. They do a great job there. And then we have blogs and things on our YouTube channel and our website that you can be watching or reading. I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to put this question up there. So what we're going to talk about right now is what area of your life needs rest and how will you begin?